right, we're at lesson 9 and we're talking about the hook. This is the scroll stopper. So welcome to my experience with lesson 9, the hook. And I'm going to be totally honest. In the course, this is a 13-minute video and it's training that you have to go through yourself to really appreciate fully. Like my experience with it is just not going to help as much as it would if you went through the actual video and then came back and watched like how I reacted with it. So the link is below in the description if you haven't already done this. This lesson is a lot of work, and James goes through a specific example that clearly works. It's actually kind of the example for this course that we're talking about, the first 100 leads. Now, while I am following his directions and completing the exercises, you'll just benefit from hearing it directly from him as to what I'm doing. Getting someone to stop their scroll and check out what you have to say, like that's gotta be one of the most important things that you can do. I'm all in on this one because this is the top of the funnel and nothing happens without leads. And if there are no leads, someone's scrolling right past all your work. So the first thing he points out is that our customers want something, but they're not getting there because they're making a mistake. They're not doing something right. Now, nobody makes a mistake on purpose. I want you to think about that. Nobody makes a mistake on purpose. So the reality is that they don't know they're making a mistake. So we, in our scroll stopping efforts, need to identify the mistakes people are making so that they raise their hand and say, oh my God, I'm doing that. That's me. So the first exercise is to create a list of mistakes that the ideal customer is making. Then to identify the belief they have that's driving that mistake, and then the consequence of making that mistake. So he goes through the example of the process he used to come up with this free mini course, which is unbelievably helpful. Now, I went through his process to identify 10 mistakes my ideal customer is making right now, the underlying belief, and the consequences. And I'm not going to read all of them out to you, but I will pick a couple and go through them with you in a minute. After you've done the mistake, belief, and consequence exercise, which we just talked about, the next step is to do the reverse and identify the new belief, the better way, and the benefit, and then craft your hook statement. I'll share with you 2 that I came up with, so keep in mind this is for me. And this is one of my first times through this exercise, so it's probably far from perfect. And you'll benefit from going through the course itself, but I wanted to be totally raw and share what I came up with after doing all of this work. So option 1, the mistake. Not having the right tools and equipment that result in way too much work to get a good-looking product, or simply not having a video version of your podcast. And the belief that's kind of driving that mistake is, I believe I have figured out the best way to get a finished product that looks good. Or maybe it's just too much work and I'm not going to do it. And the consequence is, if the effort to get a finished product out there that you're comfortable releasing is a massive undertaking, you'll find a million reasons to start skipping shows and eventually just stop doing it at all. Now here's the better way. Having the right tools and equipment that you can run by yourself and have a professional looking video podcast. The belief would be you actually have figured out the most effective way to get a finished product out there, and it's simple and repeatable and has professional quality. And the consequence is the focus of the podcast production becomes on delivering the best content and bringing your true personality to the show, because you're no longer worried about or thinking about all the work that would be required to get your show ready to release. So podcasting is a long game, and seeing rapid subscriber growth and reduced effort will compound your willingness to stick with it and then break out. So here's the hook statement. If you're a podcaster or aspiring podcaster, then you know that growing your show means growing your exposure. Unfortunately, most podcasters make the mistake of not having the right tools and equipment that result in way too much work to get a good looking product, or simply not having a video version of your podcast because the workload is too high. That's why we've created an equipment list and studio tour that shows you exactly the right tools and equipment that are proven to work, so that you can actually focus on the content and coming through authentically to more rapidly grow your audience and get you a point where you can monetize your show before you burn out. It's called the Video Podcast Studio. Everything you need to start a video podcast without wasting time and money. This is a brand new mini course that we're going to be charging $97 for, but right now it's absolutely free. All right, so that was my first option. A lot of work. I did that 10 times. And this is number 2. This is the last one I'm going to share with you. The mistake is not taking advantage of the YouTube algorithm to find more audience or draw that audience to you. There actually is not a podcast search algorithm. Most people don't know that. They just think they're going to find it. The ability to organically grow a podcast is extremely limited because it doesn't show up in normal search. So the belief is, if I create a great podcast, the audience will find me. And the consequence of that false belief and mistake is there really aren't podcast algorithms like Google or YouTube. And if you don't take advantage of it and are not advertising, you're not going to be found, or the growth will be so slow. So the better way, having a video podcast on YouTube allows you to be found in the world's second largest search engine. Belief, the best way to grow my audience is by getting as much exposure as possible, and in any search on Google, there are videos right after the primary search, and I need to show up there. The consequence, leveraging the power of YouTube's search engine, your podcast content, and more importantly, you will have significantly more exposure, not just with the podcast itself, but the ability to repurpose content from the podcast in shorter snippets. So the statement here, if you're a podcaster or aspiring podcaster, you know that growing your show means growing your exposure. Unfortunately, most podcasters make the mistake of not taking advantage of YouTube's search engine to find more audience or have that audience find you because you don't have a professional looking video podcast. That's why we've created the complete equipment list and studio tour that shows you exactly the right tools and equipment that are proven to work so that you can actually add professional looking video to your podcast and begin leveraging the power of YouTube's search engine to more rapidly grow your audience and get you to a point where you can monetize your show before you burn out. It's called the Video Podcast Studio. Everything you need to start a video podcast without wasting time and money. This is a brand new mini course that we're going to be charging $97 for, but right now it's absolutely free. Now, if you're working along with me, you're probably asking, did I do this right? And that's the title of the next lesson, so stick with me. The next lesson we'll get into, did we totally mess this up or did we get it right? We'll see you soon.